Welcome to SoulShift, the podcast where we blend mindset, emotional wellness, and real humanity with just the right dose of science and soul. I'm Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts, Ali Anderson and Christine Morgenstern Shin. Each week, we share compassionate conversations and insights that remind you you're not alone. Whether you're moving through stress, reconnecting with yourself, or seeking peace amid chaos, this is your space to breathe and grow without the pressure of perfection. So today, I am absolutely delighted to welcome Jen Sellar. Jen is a heart-led speaker. She's a coach, writer, and podcast co-host who helps resilient, high-achieving women stop hiding and start shining. She's been featured in Female Entrepreneurs magazine, spoken at Powerhouse Women events, and has graced numerous stages. But what I love most about Jen is her deep understanding that sometimes we lose ourselves in the roles we play and the expectations we carry, and her beautiful work of guiding women back home to themselves. Welcome to SoulShift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life align.
SoulShift offers a peaceful pause in your week, a gentle reminder that meaningful change doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Together, we'll discover practical tools, we'll share authentic conversations, and honor the beautiful complexity of being human.
This is your invitation to breathe, to reflect, and to trust the process.
Thank you for being here. Let's shift
Gently.
Together. Jen, welcome to SoulShift. We're thrilled and grateful that you're here.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today, and so happy that Mindy and I met not that long ago and were able to connect and have this come together.
Okay, so if we could start with something deeply personal.
You bet.
There was a season where you lost yourself through caregiving, divorce, burnout, and rebuilding. So for someone who might be in that place right now, feeling that they don't even recognize who they are anymore, what did reclaiming your identity actually look like for you?
Oh, it's funny how that still hits you hard when you think back to those times. But yeah, it's what you just said. I think there was just this season where I looked in the mirror and really didn't even recognize the woman I was staring at. And it came from, a lot of loss and grief and pain, and just, it wasn't an immediate recognition. I think that happens. It's just a gradual loss of yourself. I was always the people pleaser and giving everything to everyone, wanting to be everything to everybody. And I think that's where it just kind of snowballed into this gradual place where I hit this wall. And coming out of that to reclaim my identity was, again, not a overnight kind of success. And I think that's really important. I really hope that people recognize that when they're in a space like that, it takes a lot of time and work and energy and focus. And there's a lot of hurt and uncovering of layers to get to a place where you finally recognize and see the beauty in yourself again. And for me, that meant a lot of personal development work, a lot of gaining that self-awareness, and then reconnecting to my core values, what was most important to me, what mattered, and what did this, life look like now versus where I really wanted it to be, and how had I lost myself somewhere in between there.
And sometimes we need to redefine what those core values are.
Absolutely. That's a big part of the work that I do as far as bringing people back to reconnecting to themselves. I think there's a loss of really what matters, or there's been an outside influence of some kind. We all know this, that we are who we are when we're born, and then no matter what we go through, no matter who we are, we're going to be impacted by external forces and influences, and probably even more so now than ever, because we are so just surrounded by so many different people and beliefs, and we have access to all these things at our fingertips with social media and the internet, whereas many years ago, you were pretty much influenced by your immediate surroundings. And so I think there's a lot of confusion that ends up happening within ourselves and, trying to please, or you get caught up in the game of comparison. And it's really tough to stay aligned and feel very authentically yourself when there's all these people around you telling you who you should be, what you should do, expectations, guilt, all the things. It's overwhelming for most people.
Thank you for sharing that.
Jen, I love how you mentioned about the external forces coming in and how you're getting hit in all different ways, all of us, right? Because of social media and such. And, it sounds like you're so super crystal clear on who you are now. And I don't know if it was creating a new identity or just simply coming home to yourself. But how do you manage staying the course, like staying aligned with your true authentic self versus getting pulled in all these different directions?
Such a great question, Chris. So just for full disclosure, I don't believe myself that we are ever crystal clear 100% on who we are. And this reclaiming of identity, I believe it's really important for people to know that you can lose yourself multiple times throughout your life. It's not, I lost myself once and now I'm all better and I know exactly who I am. It's an evolution that we all go through. We go through different points in our life that challenge us in different ways, or traumas that we experience, people that we meet. And I don't believe that we're ever finished evolving, even when our time on earth is done. I think if you asked anyone close to the end of their life, if they figured it all out and knew exactly who they were, I don't think they would say yes. I very much believe in that. So staying aligned as much as you can, I think that's just being very intentional in who you are, what's important to you, what lights you up, and what your non-negotiables are. Like, I think we focus a lot on what we want, what's important to us, what are our priorities, but it's just as important. And I think we forget sometimes to visit those things that are really our biggest triggers, the things we don't want to pull us away from being in alignment, the things that really spark the anger and the negative feelings in us or make us feel pulled, or that we're compromising or self-abandoning ourselves to please other people. And I know for myself, I went through that a lot. And it's still for me, like, I don't want anyone here to think like I've got it all figured out and I'm perfect, because there's no such thing in my belief. But I certainly work at it every single day. And I think surrounding yourself with the right people, like you beautiful women here today, it's really going to help us and have those reminders of the woman that I want to be. You guys, the women you want to be, the men in our lives, the children, and in our roles and all the different hats we wear, trying to be congruent as much as possible and authentic in how we show up, instead of shifting for each individual circumstance, because I believe that's where the confusion comes, and that's where you get pulled from those really core values that truly are where you are going to land and feel the most joy, the most fulfillment, and the most safety and security.
I love that. I mean, it is a struggle, I think, for all of us because we're human, right?
Exactly.
And I think what you said was really beautifully shared, and it was just down to earth, right? And a lot of your work that I was reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw that there were times in your life that you never felt like you really belonged, or sometimes you were misunderstood. And I think a lot of our listeners could relate to that. And I think a lot of our clients can too, in terms of just feeling like as an outsider or just not really connecting at certain seasons of our life. And so now I feel like, just meeting you, you're very confident and secure in your direction and your purpose and passion. What shifted for you to finally feeling home within yourself?
Such great questions. These are awesome. I really believe for myself that I'm sure there's many people that can relate to this, but I feel like there's many more of us who feel like we're in the wrong place at the wrong time or misunderstood. I certainly for myself always felt like I was having to put up against this resistance of people that were always, telling me I was too much or not enough, or questioning why I was doing this and why I cared so much and why I was not going to settle for, average. And I was so hell bent on being that better version of myself and learning and growing and curious. Oh my gosh, such a curious human. And I asked so many questions and I love learning about people. And I feel like there was just this absolute knowing at some point, and I wish I could pinpoint it, but it just sort of always felt I was like an old soul. I would be 15, let's say, at a party that was for adults, and I was always with the adults and hanging out, and I'd have an adult say to me all these wonderful things. We'd have this great conversation, and then they're like, wait a minute, why am I telling you all this stuff? How can you possibly be having this conversation with me? You're how old again? And, things like that. I've always been that safe space for total strangers through very close friends and family to just dump everything. And I always just thought that was normal. And I couldn't explain this to people. And they said, like, what's going on there? Why is that person talking to you? Even my daughters noticed it at some point. It's like, Mom, why did that lady just come up to tell you all this stuff? Do you know her? And I said, no, never met her before, but she obviously needed someone to talk to. And, here I am. This happens all the time. So I think as you get older and you go through these different things, you start to even realize how different you are, even more so than you maybe noticed at the time. But I certainly always felt different. And I knew that there was this different energy, or just, I don't even want to say wisdom, but it was almost like I had this knowing. People always wanted to come to me for advice and for guidance. And it was not something that everybody in my world at my time, in my age group, were experiencing growing up. So I think that's where it really was like, okay, this is different. And then fast forward to now, I embrace it so much more heavily because it's what makes me unique. It's what's allowed me to get through all of the difficult challenges and times in my life that have been extremely horrible and, just trying to crush me and pull the energy away and build that resilience, because I just have this energy, I have this desire, I have this belief that there's a bigger plan out there for me. And when you can embrace that instead of fighting it because it's making you feel different and weird, that's when all the magic happens and you open yourself up to so much greater impact on the world.
I love everything you're saying, Jen. And Jen, this connects so beautifully to something you're passionate about, which I've heard you speak into, self-leadership. And I'm wondering, what does self-leadership mean to you? And do you believe it's something that we all need?
Yeah, self-leadership. So as I've gone through my journey, the word leadership, I find, is something that scares a lot of people because it's attached to a certain level of experience or age or roles. So I've kind of gotten away from talking about leadership more as I've evolved in my business. But I do believe so heavily in self-leadership. And it is literally the easiest way to explain it is just you are showing up and owning who you are and showing up as that person as much as you can each and every day. So you're taking responsibility for the full version of you. You know your strengths, your weaknesses, where you can improve. You know your triggers, you know your unconscious biases. You're very, very self-aware because you've taken the time to really study yourself. And I am a total learning addict, so I love learning about myself and other people. But I think it's definitely something that I didn't love or jump into until, a much older age. So it's scary. It's scary to go into the depths of who you are and figure it all out. But the self-leadership piece for everybody, I truly believe that you cannot be as effective in impacting the world, inspiring and empowering and helping people move through their own difficulties and struggles and being that great leader if you aren't self-aware and you haven't learned to lead yourself first. Because truly, we're leading ourselves every day, whether we believe it or not. But when I talk to people about leadership, they don't necessarily always resonate with themselves as a leader. So it's like a whole new educating, I guess, of people that you are leading yourself every day. And in any role where there's anyone around you, you have the opportunity and the privilege to inspire and empower and really help people thrive in their most authentic ways. So when we can show up that way and we've done the work, we can inspire so many more people to do the same.
It's amazing. And I want to piggyback off that and ask you, I've heard you speak about helping women unbecome the versions of themselves that are built around the people pleasing and the survival mode. I find that word unbecoming really, really powerful. And I'd love for you to walk us through what that process looks like. And how does somebody identify the layers they need to peel back? And then how do they peel back those layers and truly come into themselves and step into that self-leadership piece that you spoke about?
That's a very loaded question. We wouldn't even have time all day today to talk about the whole process, but I'll try to break it down into a shorter version. But essentially, you have to be ready. That's the first thing. This is not something you can force on any woman, man, child, anyone. when you are ready to really reconnect with yourself. And generally that comes, the people that I end up helping, they've usually been through something pretty major in their life, whether that's a trauma, whether it's a transition with divorce or a career or, just losing themselves because of really intense people pleasing and not focusing on themselves. Whichever those, areas they come from, they have this unhappiness, this discontentment, this kind of pull or struggle within that it's just not going away. They know that there's something there that they need to work on or address or face. And those would be the layers that you're speaking of. A lot of women specifically are more open to this than men, which is why I love working with women. And I would love to help men too. But women are used to talking about these things more. It's more acceptable. And there's a lot of this talk around women trying to find their calling, their purpose. And those are real big words. And this unbecoming and becoming are also becoming more common words that are out there in the media and stuff today too. But really this idea of purpose, and one of my coaches put this so simply, if you can think of your purpose as just who you were before the world told you who you should be, it's that simple. And so coming home to yourself is literally reconnecting. We talked about the values and being self-aware and getting to know ourselves, but reconnecting to that very young version of yourself when you had the biggest dreams and you were so lit up and excited and sparkly and just the world couldn't stop you. And that's the person who you were meant to be and who you're meant to share with the world before you figured that you had to shift and change and adapt and all the things. So that is a huge one that I take them on that journey back to. I don't really do inner child work. I'm not somebody who would say I'm an expert in inner child work, but I've done some myself. And I can lead them through a more surface level, process of that in my scope. But that would be step one, reconnecting to that more childlike version of yourself. What lights you up? Think of times of joy in your life. What were you doing? What did it look like? Like all the visuals of that to bring us back there. That's going to lead us more closely to that sense of purpose, that becoming, that getting back to that authentic self, because the becoming is shedding those layers that we've been piling on top of ourselves or other people have put on top of us. And then stepping into that more authentic and aligned version that comes from visiting way back for some of us, depending on our age and where we're at, and figuring out, what do you want? What's important? What does your dream look like in your dream life? And how can you impact people? And then taking the pressure off at the same time of, we don't just have one purpose. This is why I like the definition of purpose being who you are before the world told you who to be. Because if you just are who you are, your purpose can shift depending on where you're at in your life, what stage you're at, maybe an opportunity you have to do a certain career. You can still be you in all of those different spaces and stages of life. And so you're still fulfilling that purpose. And it's not something that's so pressured to find that one thing where the clouds open up and the light shines down on you and, I found my purpose, right? And that's something I think a lot of people talk about too, is this pressure. And if we can drop the pressure and just really take that time to be intentional and go deep and ask ourselves the right questions, which is where coaches are very helpful with that. The best coaches aren't the ones that tell you what to do. Their signature program and what worked for them on you, it's asking you those questions because we all have the answers within us already. We just need to have them asked by the right people at the right time and be willing to answer them honestly. The becoming process is not simple. It's not fast. You can become, like I say, these different versions where you feel more like yourself. And I've gone through this myself, so I can completely relate. I've had different times in my life where I've done portions of personal development work and had coaching and felt great. And I was on this path. And then something else happens, some other trauma or challenge or whatever, awareness. And now it's like, oh, well, who am I now? And then you go and you peel back even more layers and more layers. So I hope that answers the question. It's a complex process. It's not easy and it's not for the faint of heart, but it is so beautiful and it's so amazing when you start to just peel those back and get more aligned with yourself because you just feel more joyful. You feel more aligned, peaceful, secure, all of it.
Jen, I loved your answer. I think it was very thorough. And so many of our listeners are right on the edge of change. And so many of our listeners are sort of midlife and they know they're meant for more and they're ready to take a leap. And I think you just beautifully explained how to take the leap and what they needed to hear in this moment, right? And to allow themselves to take that leap. So thank you for spending the time and explaining that.
Yes, my pleasure. It's a lot about compassion and grace for yourself in this process. A lot of compassion and grace for yourself. Yeah.
So true. And that's what we're doing here on SoulShift. And I want to talk about what you're embarking on. You have a new creative adventures, I understand. You're co-hosting a podcast. You're writing a book. Tell us what's going on there and what our listeners would want to hear.
Yeah. So in line with, figuring out purpose and what's next for ourselves in my personal journey, there's still those questions. There's still what's the next best step? What's the most aligned step? How do I want to make that impact on the world? What kind of legacy am I leaving behind? So I'm answering all those hard questions myself, not infrequently, while I help others and walk beside them and guide them through that journey as well, which is amazing. And that's one of the other things I love about coaching and speaking and workshops and writing even. I have been wanting to write books for my entire life. So I am on this mission now, recently inspired by stories that have come out of me from reconnecting with that inner child again, just at this particular time in my life, having gone through some additional challenges. And it's really about not dimming your sparkle, your shine, letting your light shine, because I was dimmed as a child. I was too much. I had so much energy and sparkle and flew around like this cartoon character, really is the best way to describe it. So much joy and hyperactivity and energy, and just trying to make people laugh and smile. And I realized how much being shunned and shamed for that at a younger age, and then carrying that through to my adulthood, when I look back and connect all the dots now, the life choices I made and who I showed up as or didn't show up as, not being able to stand up for myself in certain circumstances, choosing career paths that weren't necessarily the right choice, choosing relationships that weren't the right ones for me. It's amazing when we can look back. And the book that I'm writing is a personal history of myself and my journey through this step-by-step, if you will, kind of recognition, acknowledgement, and growth process. And then how I got to where I am today. So taking that from past childhood experiences, how it's impacted me, how I'm here, and then how hopefully that can help other people to really step up and embrace their power and embrace their shine and not let it be dimmed by anyone else just because we're trying to please other people or be the person that we were told we were supposed to be, because that's really crushing that whole concept that we just talked about of getting back to your authentic self, coming home to yourself. So that's the book currently. And then the podcast is all about connection and building authentic confidence by connecting with yourself and then connecting with others and networking. The woman that I'm co-hosting with is someone I met in the same community where I've met Mindy. And she is a firecracker and like a networking genie and so funny and such lovely energy. And her and I realized how much people fear networking and connecting with people. And it's become even harder, I think, this post-COVID world. People have forgotten how to have conversations and they feel even more anxious and are not showing up to these things because they're scared and don't have the confidence to go into these rooms and meet new people and create opportunities for themselves. And the podcast is all about that. So self-connection as well as connecting with other people in all aspects of our life, and not even officially networking, but just realizing where these connections can happen in our everyday lives.
Love that. Love that.
Beautiful.
So Jen, as we begin to wrap up, I want to touch on some of the themes that you've mentioned and also that I've read about. You had mentioned, and correct me if this might not be quoted exactly, but you said that you lived the truth that resilience is built through our challenge, so that like tough times really do build tougher humans.
Yes.
And, I believe in general, without those difficult seasons, we might not ever really figure out or discover what we're capable of. When you're in that muck and everything feels stuck, and then that breakthrough happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, how has this realization shaped you to view struggle now compared to long ago when you were stuck?
Oh, I love that question because it so resonates with everything that I talk about. You nailed all the quotes and the concepts there. So truly, and I just said this to someone I was in a massage appointment, I think the other day, and we were having this great chat. And he asked me, like, so from all the stuff you've been through, it sounds like you've been through a lot of things. Was there anything you learned and like really have taken forward? Or is it just like you put it away in the past, you don't want to look at it? And I said, oh my gosh, no. That resilience that I have built through all of these struggles and that toughness, mental toughness, emotional toughness, all of it, without, creating a shell where you just put up a wall and you cannot, interact or feel or anything, because that's also a dangerous place to be. That resilience is something that I am so grateful for. I actually can look back at all of these, at the time, horrifically emotional and just these massive hardships and loss and grief. And I can see the good and the growth that happened in each of them. And it's something I'm very grateful for, that I have been able to have that shift, because it's too much to hang on to. We aren't capable of hanging on to all of that as it is. We have to be able to turn it into something good. And so, like you said, Chris, if we didn't experience struggles and we didn't have challenge, there's no way we would be even faced with that mirror of like, who are you? Who are you really? Do you have that strength? Can you overcome this? What more can you do? And I think for me, that's exactly, it was this mirror saying, you're stronger than this. This isn't going to break you. You got this. You were meant for more. You got to keep going and keep pushing. And that resilience was built time after time going through those. It also gives you more confidence going into those challenging situations in the future. So they don't necessarily seem quite as daunting or as extreme as they did from the first time you experienced it. And then being able to help other people who are going through those times and realize, listen, I got from here to there. I went through some horrible stuff, and there is a brighter light on the other side of all that darkness. And that has been something I'm extremely grateful for, because if we don't have those dark times, I think it's a lot harder to be really gracious with all that we are blessed with, all the light, all the things that we have gratitude for in our lives, because we wouldn't even know any different. So as much as I wouldn't wish all of those horrible things that I had to go through on anyone, personally, I've been able to grow through them, build that resilience, heal through them, still working on things, of course, always, but be grateful for the lessons and the growth that it has provided me.
Thank you for sharing it. I really think this is an important takeaway, that you didn't get lost in your struggle or never got back up, right? But also now you're thriving. When you said gratitude, you had me there. A lot of people aren't grateful for their struggles. They're mad, they're frustrated, they think they might be in the victim role. And instead, you embraced it. And whatever you went through on the other side, you're thinking your struggles, it just magic happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just that reframe. And so thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And you had this quote that I was really excited about. So I want to share it with everyone. And then maybe if you could talk into it a little. It's, you were always enough and never too much. You are not meant to hide. You are meant to shine. And I know you also mentioned this word sparkle. Like, I love the sparkle. And for someone who has spent years making themselves smaller, like dimming their light, never even thinking of being sparkly, right? What do you think? What's a one simple step, like a first step, to share with our audience towards believing that this is actually true, that you are meant to shine?
Oh, great question. It still gives me goosebumps when you say it after I've written it. It's truly, the sparkle is that I think we all are meant to shine. We all have a gift that's unique to us. There's only one of each of us. And I think this is where the sparkle comes from. I believe that it is our responsibility. I really do. We are put on this planet for a purpose and a calling, a reason, many reasons. And it might not always be clear at the time. We might be able to look back and see ways where we've impacted or, made good contributions. But each time that you can spot that in your life, that's your sparkle. Like, that's you sharing this gift with others in the world around you. And even if it's, nowadays you can share your sparkle without anyone really there, talking into a camera and posting a video on Instagram or whatever. And it's amazing how you can impact and inspire other people by just literally letting that sparkle come out. And you're not going to see it. It's not going to be a halo unless you have some special effects going on. But when you're in alignment and you have figured out who you truly are and you are now leading yourself through life that way, it's just like when we talk about people who have that glow about them. You're in a room with someone and it's like they do have this light radiating around them. They just seem so content and in this very peaceful, stable kind of aura. And it's beautiful. I've witnessed it myself several times. And it is the most beautiful thing to me. And I think more people get in touch with that inner spark or sparkle, that they can share it. And it just creates that much more beauty and love and compassion and kindness and all of it in the world.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, Jen, this conversation has been so rich. It's been such a gift. You've inspired me, and I know you've inspired our audience. So before we close, I'd love for you to share where our listeners can connect with you and learn more about your work.
You bet. I am primarily a LinkedIn girl, so you can find me there just at Jen Sellar. I do have a website that I'm working on. It's being modified now, but you can go to jensellar.com. And other than that, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. It's not my primary focus, but I do post some things on there as well, so you can find out more there. And I'd love to connect with anyone if they want to send me a DM or a message on any of those platforms and get through my website as well. That would be totally welcomed at any time. I just want to help people shine. Truly, that's really it. And if you're struggling and you're feeling like that you're meant for more, like we were talking about, you can ignore it all you want, like I did for a few years myself, many years. But when you get to the point where it's just poking at you and you're like, nope, that's it, you might just need someone to talk to you about it, to help you uncover it and to help you turn it into whatever it's supposed to be. And you already know what it is, but you might need to just be asked those right questions to lead you on that journey.
And it will be in our show notes. But the name of your podcast?
I can't share that just yet because we've only recorded. We haven't published officially yet. But yeah, it'll be around connection. Surprise. You bet.
When do you think you'll be publishing?
We're hoping by the end of October at the latest, the first episode will be out.
Okay, so then you'll let us know, because by then this episode will be ready for airing. And
oh, perfect.
I would love to help you and support you in sharing it with our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll keep you posted on the book as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
My next message is for everyone listening. I really, really want you to carry with you Jen's beautiful reminder. You were never meant to hide. You were always meant to shine. Your story matters, and the world is waiting to hear it. And I want to repeat that the idea of becoming requires us to practice unbecoming. That's powerful. That is so powerful. And I thank you for that transformational message. It's very, very special. If today's conversation stirred something in you, if you're feeling that gentle nudge towards change or the courage to step more fully into who you're meant to be, trust that feeling. You weren't meant to do life alone, so reach out to support when you need it. And remember that when you reconnect with your core values, as Jen shared with us, and your most authentic self, your potential becomes unlimited. And respect the fact that your authentic self can change many times during your lifetime as you radically accept where you are at any point in your life. And you can rewrite your story and write what will become your happily ever after. So thank you for being here. Thank you for creating space in your day for growth and reflection with us. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and remember, you are exactly where you need to be.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
and offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If SoulShift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.